Hi, Chris.
Hi Richard, how's it going? The fire's still going.
The
So
fire is going. I think Chris has outdone everybody, all of us, with his actual fireside fire for the fireside chat. So, thank you. This is Chris Kirby, and Chris is the co founder and CEO of Tomorrow's Journey. Someone's put that in there wrong to confuse me. I almost said that as well. I almost said that's like, that's not what it's
remember.
called. Someone's changed your company name then.
That's
So, I'll jump right in and yeah, well, maybe actually, if you could just tell again everyone actually a little bit about who doesn't know what Tomorrow's Journey, who don't know what it is, if you could just give us some background on what Tomorrow's Journey is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Tomorrow's Journey, we're a software business in the automotive and mobility sector. I think area that Lewis touched on earlier. Our focus is about helping businesses to create new ways of accessing vehicles. So that's anything from kind of car sharing all the way through to kind of subscription and flexible access models. And primarily the work that we're doing is around electric vehicles. So almost all of the projects that we're working on have in some way, shape or form a connection to electric vehicles and promoting electric vehicles, working with a couple of car manufacturers to help them to provide digital test drive programs for launches of electric vehicles that are coming this year. But we're also helping a large energy company to launch a bundled package offer for Uber drivers in London to be able to affordably access a fully electric vehicle. Yeah, kind of really focused on trying to promote the use of EVs and more efficient vehicles, but also actually our business was kind of formed off the basis of trying to improve asset utility. So trying to make vehicle assets used more and better. Favorite stat, and I hear at every conference about, cars are parked 95% of the time. And broadly our business's mission is trying to get vehicles used better. It helps to reduce cost. That's going to become more of a challenge when cars are electric. They're more expensive to produce and all of these good things. So we want to cut waste out of the use of assets, and we want to promote the use of electric vehicles as well.
So to backtrack a little bit, if you'd be good to find out about your background and career and actually your connection to Milton Keynes, because you're from MK or living
Yeah,
in.
absolutely. Yeah, so I've kind of grown up here. I think similar to Nikki actually, which I didn't realize until she said. So I was born and bred in Milton Keynes. I actually was born in Northampton Hospital because I think Milton Keynes Hospital was here, but maybe yeah, wasn't quite ready at that
Yeah,
point.
same here actually.
Yeah, so kind of just in that era. But interestingly, I'm kind of second generation Milton Keynes. Really, my grandmother moved out of London in 1950 and bought a house in Loughton, which was just a village in the countryside at the time. She still lives in that house, small 3-bedroom house on a massive piece of land, pretty much in the middle of Milton Keynes. Yeah, I've pretty much been here for my whole life. Really lived in Buckingham for a while and Toaster, but pretty much been around. In terms of my professional career, I've worked almost solely in the automotive sector. So I worked for a lot of the car manufacturers, doing different things roughly for about 15 years before doing some kind of consultancy and marketing work, which got us into the area of the mobility sector. Probably about 4 years ago, we recognized that it was definitely an industry that was changing the automotive and transport markets that we had kind of come from as a team. But we realized that everyone was kind of doing a bit of a rubbish job, as they do when there's kind of disruption in sectors. Everyone was kind of having a go at some things and nothing was really working, but everyone was kind of believing it was the right thing to do. And our area that we saw that we could really help with was about this kind of asset utilization piece, which is where we've grown the business from.
So it'd be good to find out. Obviously, you got the where you actual specific was it some spark or conversation that sort of led you on to create this or start the business?
It was an interesting one, really. I think we were doing a lot of work for some kind of large corporates in the auto sector around this kind of mobility area, and they were just asking relatively general questions like, "What is it? How's it going to affect our business? What's all of these things?" And I think the more and more we got into that, the more and more we felt it was a part of the sector that we wanted to be in. And actually myself and one of the co-founders of Tomorrow's Journey, we kind of didn't really have the answer at that point, but we said, look, there's got to be something here. Let's just kind of brainstorm some things out. And actually in this room, in my living room that I'm sitting here, we stole a flip chart from the office and I fashioned a thing to hang it on the back of the door with some coat hangers, which I only took down about 3 weeks ago. I was sitting on the back of my living room door, and we just kind of kicked some things around, and we kind of knew broadly the area that we were in, and we ended up kind of looking at this asset utility thing, but more around autonomous vehicles. And we said, look, when vehicles are all autonomous, actually the fleet itself has to be, the fleet of vehicles can't just be owned by the company that operates them, because you'll have all these empty autonomous vehicles driving around all of the time. And that was kind of where we started. And then we went, well, hang on a minute, that's 15 years down the road. How do we bring it back to today? Well, actually, it's also a today problem. And that's kind of where the process really started, to be honest. And yeah, after a few more late night sessions in this living room with lots of coffee, we kind of came up with the original idea.
So how did you actually get that into reality and kind of start the business? And you know, did you look for funding straight away, or did you go a different route?
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience, really, particularly around the fundraising. And it's been interesting listening to the other speakers today and their kind of experiences and different places with it, really. I think it was always our intention to raise money, and we did early on. So we kind of created the business concept, ran it past a few people, kind of as you do, and helped to try and refine it. We had a bit of a tipping point, which was the point I was going to quit my job and give this a go. We had a few little criteria to meet, one of which was bringing in a CTO, so one of the other co-founders and great friend of mine, Matt Potts. Part of the deal we made with ourselves is we won't do it without Matt on board, because he's, you know, from a tech point of view, is absolutely fantastic. And then we decided that we would give it a go. I had enough money in the bank for 4 or 5 months, and I went, right, and we need to raise some money at the end of that period to be able to do it. And we were fortunate enough to raise money mostly from angel investors, private investors, and we've done that kind of a couple of times in our journey, which has kind of kept us going to this point until we were able to commercialize the product and start generating revenue. We had some interesting experiences trying to raise VC money. That was a lot more difficult than we expected, and I think we have talked about that a bit this evening as well. It's definitely is the hardest part of the journey, for sure, and it's not an easy thing to do. And actually, probably we wasted a bit more time than we should have done on that particular area. And actually focusing on growing the business and generating revenue was far better use of our time, unsurprisingly. But you get sucked into this startup idea of build an idea, raise some money, do some more stuff, rebrand, raise some more money. And actually you realize that's not a very good way to grow a business. And maybe you should try and get some customers and sell some of your product, which has worked much better for us as a strategy, unsurprisingly.
So how many rounds have you gone through so far?
So really only 2 rounds. We had kind of our initial seed round, which was mostly people we knew, friends, family, and a couple of industry people. Our chairman, who was a kind of industry friend of ours, who's been invaluable actually through our experience so far, and still is to this day. The guy that literally knows everybody in the industry. Last week I said, I think there's an opportunity within a dealer group because they're starting to look at new business models. Do you know anyone there? And he went, oh yeah, I know the guy that founded it. Give me 5 minutes. And an hour later, the guy who I wanted a meeting with emailed me and said, when are you free next week? So he's been a bit invaluable from that sense, but he put some money in early doors. And then we were able to secure a couple of other sort of wealthier angel investors. And I say wealthy, putting 50K, 100K in to kind of keep us moving through our second year. So really it was only kind of 2 stages of investment, really. And and then kind of moving into the commercial part.
Are you going for more funding?
TBC. And I guess, there's a couple of interesting areas. I think we have realized, and this isn't, so you said about, I think when we were talking earlier about, what any epiphanies, any kind of big news. I mean, this isn't big news. This is things that everyone told me at the start, but I just didn't listen to them. But, the idea of building a business that can support itself and then looking for funding to help you grow or help you take advantage of certain opportunities is definitely where we're focused as a business now. So we don't actually need any more funding. I'm pretty confident that we can, with our recurring revenue, with customers that we've got on board, we can self-fund from this point. However, the market's at an inflection point, and I think we're excited about the opportunity that having a bigger team and some more resources would give us. That being said, the idea of kind of running around venture capital firms again is a kind of thing that makes me not want to come to work. So we may do something somewhere in between. We've got a couple of really good customers actually who have venture arms who have expressed interest in investing in us, who have been pleased with the work that we've done, and so that might be an area that we explore. Otherwise, we'll do it ourselves. It's the best way, I think, we found.
It's good. It's a nice position. You've got yourself to be it there now, but you can potentially don't have to rely on that going forward. So, yeah. Wonder what the futures are for, what's the vision, where you're going with tomorrow's journey?
Yeah, I think for us, we were always focused on this asset utility part, and we've had to develop our products around that to kind of really force the market fit. I think we mentioned earlier about the autonomous vehicles, this idea of kind of a neutral fleet of vehicles that can be used by lots of different parties is a fantastic concept, but doesn't really work practically today because that's not how fleets are operating. But definitely we see in the future, our vision is that almost you separate the people who own the vehicles to the people who are providing the service. And that's going to create a lot more opportunity for people to create specific products and services to different types of user groups. Because a lot of car sharing stuff is it's brand new electric Golfs aimed at wealthy people in London. Actually being able to take a car by the hour is something that would really benefit low income families, but the model's not set up for that. So our idea is to try and really promote electric vehicles and then kind of move into being able to give better accessibility to mobility to more people.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. Yeah, no, because that's a big challenge. Obviously, the cost, the barrier to entry to electric vehicles, obviously, so is still very high, isn't it? So,
yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the challenges that we're going to have as an industry over the next few years is going to be supply of electric vehicles. I think there's a real tipping point. I said on a podcast that I do back at the end of 2019 that I thought 2020 would be the year of the electric vehicle. I didn't foresee the coronavirus pandemic, so I think that's probably trumped it slightly. But definitely electric vehicles have, I think, had a mind shift with people now. I think it's often not a question of complaints about range, complaints about I don't like a Nissan Leaf. There's a good selection of vehicles available, and it's really just a question of when for people, not if. So I think we could have issues around supply. And I've always said that if you have an expensive Audi and it's parked up by Colleen Rooney, I always blame Colleen, I don't know what she's done, but if she parks it and does 3,000 miles a year with her £70,000 electric vehicle and no one else uses it, that's a waste of this electric vehicle. It's a waste of this asset, and the asset should be more shared. I got to meet the transport minister at a startup event a few years ago, or a year or so ago, and I said that the government should mandate that 50% of electric vehicles that are sold should be shared, because to share access to them. And then next week they announced they're making number plates green for electric cars, which seems almost does the same thing, or not really, colouring in the end of a number plate. But yeah, so I think that there's stuff like that. I think that we can do much better. I think electric vehicles for a bit are actually going to become a commodity in demand, and getting more people access to them is going to be a good way of trying to reduce that carbon footprint.
So how many people in your team now?
So we're a team of 6 at the moment. We have a new guy starting in a couple of weeks in our development team, and we've kind of just grown that organically, mostly last year. This time last year there was only 3 of us, so we've kind of doubled in the last 12 months despite the challenges, which has been great. And I think we'd probably want to double again by the end of next year. Investment stuff might change that, but but just organically we'd look to grow the team. It's been interesting. Our head office is here in Milton Keynes, or at the Barclays Eagle Lab at Cranfield. But actually, because we've recruited during 2020, our team is spread across the country. That idea of a remote workforce and getting access to a really good talent pool by being able to access remote workers has been really beneficial for us. So whilst I think our home will always remain here, I don't see us having a huge tower block in the centre of town, tomorrow's journey towers. It would be nice, but I don't think it's going to be a thing.
I think everyone's probably not going to be going that anymore, or looking to do that generally, are they? So you think you're going to expand the team much quicker and bigger coming up?
Yeah, I think so. So definitely think this year we'd look to double the team again if we grow organically. I think with the projections that we've got and the type of projects that we're looking to add to the current ones that we're doing, I think we're hoping that we can double the size of the team. I say if we decide to take some investment, if there's some strategic opportunities for us, we may grow the team further. We're also doing some stuff overseas. We have a project in Singapore, and we're talking to a company in Dubai currently about a project as well. So some opportunity to do some stuff abroad as well, which is interesting. But again, you can do most of that remotely, as we're finding out. No need to jump on a flight and fly to Singapore. We've done the whole deal and pretty much launched the product without setting foot in the country. So yeah, can work pretty well remotely, I think.
Yeah. And I guess that's obviously, you know, as we know, good for the environment in the current circumstances anyway, you know, with obviously air travel being probably the worst offender, I guess. So from that point of view, it's positive. So coming back, I know you did touch on epiphanies, but have you got any more tips or any lessons learned for yourself or where you've come through the industry?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a few things really. I mean, I've touched on the EV thing. I think electric vehicles are going to be a big thing. I think that's kind of stating the obvious now, but maybe a year ago wasn't. But I do think that's a space to really watch. I think there'll be some key battlegrounds there. There are some questions still about infrastructure, not the old school kind of, oh, well, if everyone wants to charge their cars overnight, the grid's going to fall over, because that's actually not a problem. But things about getting chargers in the right place. I think I read a stat that Milton Keynes has more electric charge points than the whole of Wales. The problem is they're all in the centre of Milton Keynes, and the nearest one to me in Oak Grove is about 15-minute walk away. So living in an apartment, it's not easy for me to get an EV. So we're going to have some battlegrounds, I think, in that type of area. I think in terms of things I've learned actually through the startup experience, I think it's been really a question about resilience, and which I know everyone's been challenged with, I think, in the last 12 months. But it's certainly, I always thought I was relatively resilient and kind of could move around obstacles with my corporate life. But I think coming into the startup world, you get some challenges that and you get put in some pretty difficult and dark places that you maybe didn't think you would be. But actually, I think it really teaches you that you can come through those and to be a lot more relaxed about difficult things. I think I was actually talking about it today. I get a lot less excited when big things come up, and I get a lot less down when things go bad. So I think that's definitely a benefit of working in the startup space for sure. I had a call from a car manufacturer today saying that they want us to do the EV test drive program globally for one of their cars, which is great. I'll believe it when I see it, and there's no champagne on ice tonight. You know, that's a nice thing that they've said, that they want to take a small pilot that we've done in London and roll it out globally. But we'll see. So there's a kind of an example of where if you don't get too excited about it until it happens, you're not too disappointed if it doesn't. So kind of keep moving through. So I think there's a kind of few things around that are good, particularly for people thinking about coming into, doing their own startup. It's really, really difficult. It's very rewarding, and you do learn quite a lot about yourself and your capabilities when you're doing it, for sure.
I think that last one's actually a good point, because I think, it's not about not being positive or being happy you've got that lead, but probably not pinning too much on it until it's really, really concrete. I think, because it's really easy to focus on that then, or put all, and distract you from other things, and it may not work out for a million different reasons, as we know, especially in the last year or so. to not die and stuff.
I was thinking about what my reason could be to plant some trees. So I've got some trees in my More Trees account, and I think every time I get told about a good deal that doesn't happen, I might plant a tree, and I'll rattle through a few trees quickly.
Good plug there. I'm just going to wrap up with one last question, actually, and so just as you're a homegrown local, what do you love most about Milton Keynes?
I think also kind of following on from what Nikki said, I'm a huge advocate, unofficial member of the Milton Keynes Tourist Board. Self-created, I don't know if that exists. I think just the fact that it's an open space. I know we were chatting before we started the event about kind of how we've been coping through lockdown and stuff, and I think that living in Milton Keynes through lockdown, particularly living in an apartment as I do, it's a nice place to be. I have a nice view out of my window, but also I can be walking down by the river every morning after I get my Costa coffee, and it's a good place to be. So I just think the outdoor space, I think, is great. We were chatting last week, which I think what you guys are doing and kind of really promoting tech and culture within the city is a great thing as well. Something that we could do with more of. But yeah, definitely love the outdoor spaces. Being a converted rugby player to a cyclist, a less good cyclist than you, Rich, but a cyclist nonetheless. It's nice to be able to get outdoors.
Yeah, no, echo that for sure. Yeah, city of trees.
Trees, definitely.